about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. So you're going to see these headlines saying that weight loss drugs are bringing back an old pirate's disease. Arr. And what they're talking about is scurvy. Scurvy. So the headlines are trying to, with clickbait, get you guys to think that we're all going to be Pirates of the Caribbean, which could be pretty cool. I love Pirates of the Caribbean. But they are suggesting that so many people are on Ozempic and Mounjaro that they are becoming vitamin deficient. And pirates, because they didn't have access to citrus foods and vegetables, they became deficient in vitamin C. And vitamin C caused scurvy. Scurvy. All right, so what did this study show? So yeah, there's a study. Researchers in Australia are warning that many people who are taking Ozempic or Mounjaro or whatever, these GLP-1 agonists are, modifications of those, are not eating balanced diets. Now, what they did is they looked at 41 studies involving more than 50,000 people. And they found that while all monitored weight loss, only 2 of these studies decided to look at vitamin deficiency, which I think is something that should have been done the whole time, but they didn't do that. So interestingly, that these Austrian researchers said, well, why don't we take a look at this? Dr. Claire Collins, a nutrition and dietetics researcher who led the paper, said these medications work, no doubt, no question about that, but a reduction in body weight does not automatically mean the person is well-nourished or healthy. Nutrition plays a critical role in health, she says. Right now, it's largely missing from the evidence. And what prompted them to do this is doctors are reporting rises in cases of scurvy in the U.S., triggered by not eating enough fruits and vegetables. The gums swell, turn purple, start to bleed. And this was pretty common in the 17th and 18th centuries among sailors that didn't get fresh produce. In fact, they think, according to Daily Mail, that scurvy claimed the lives of more than 2 million sailors in Great Britain alone. And I don't have world numbers of this, but that's something that we don't want coming back. They say scurvy typically develops about a month to 3 months after your body tries to deal with the vitamin C deficiency. So it might not happen, that day. But the U.S. estimates that 7% of Americans are already deficient in vitamin C. So some of you will say, well, you know what? I'm losing my weight, so my gums swell a little bit. If your gums swell and bleed, they're not healthy gums. What happens to your teeth if the surrounding gums aren't healthy? You could lose your teeth. You could have easy bleeding, easy bruising, leg swelling. Your hair could get brittle. So you know how they were talking about how people have been losing their hair with Ozempic or Wegovy or Mounjaro and Zepbound? We think it's because of some of the nutritional deficiency and the rapid weight loss. Now, how do we treat you? Well, we give you more vitamin C. Oftentimes, it takes weeks to recover, but we could get you feeling better pretty much in the next couple days if we up your vitamin C. However, serious cases could lead to permanent damage of the gums and loss of teeth. Do you guys remember we spoke about years ago how actress Demi Moore, had a diet of, if I can remember this correctly, she would have a Red Bull in the morning. She would have a teaspoon of tuna fish. She would, I think, eat some celery or spinach and then have a Red Bull at lunch and a Red Bull at dinner. And then she was on, I don't know if it was Jimmy Fallon or one of the late night shows, and she talked about how she lost a tooth or two. So we thought this was, again, malnourishment, nutritional deficiency from her not eating enough and getting enough fruits and vegetables and etc. And who knows, maybe she had scurvy. I don't know. But losing teeth is not a good sign. So they say, let's not wait for every doctor to see a case of scurvy. Let's get on the front foot and link these chronic management plans to a dietitian referral. I love dietitians, by the way. They are so underutilized in medicine. I learned to use dietitians really early on because where I trained, we had dietitians and they were just absolutely fantastic. But, you have somebody with diabetes, you have somebody with thyroid issues, someone with high cholesterol, low bone mass, low T, high blood pressure. I can't think of one condition where you don't need to also consult a dietitian. So I would definitely do that. But for those of you losing weight and you got now your coupon off of TrumpRx.com and you're like, okay, now I can get on the Ozempic and Mounjaro. I'm really, really excited about this. Yeah, you got to make sure you're getting your fruits and vegetables in. You have to. And you have to also make sure you're getting your protein. Starving yourself isn't good weight loss. We're looking at all these gaunt celebrities. They don't look healthy. Now, Oprah looks good. Vanessa Williams looks good. But they also, didn't lose like 70, 80 pounds or 100 pounds. And it looks like they've been working with diets, but and nutritionists and chefs, and they're wealthy, so they can. But you're seeing a lot of people where you're like, do they have cancer? It's interesting. Catherine O'Hara, before she died, people thought she might have been on Ozempic because she looked so gaunt. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if she has cancer. And she actually ended up having rectal cancer and then dying of a pulmonary embolism. Catherine O'Hara was the mom in Home Alone. So I don't want to scare you all, but for those of you on these GLP-1 or these weight loss drugs, understand that you need to supplement or you need to still eat a balanced. I'd rather you eat a balanced diet first. Just don't go to vitamins and that are packaged. Try to get the fruits, try to get the vegetables, because the last thing we need is you to be all skinny, but gaunt looking, unhealthy, not able to fight infection, losing, strong hair and nails, losing your teeth and walking around saying, I got scurvy. Don't go away. We'll be right back. 1-877-DOC-DOLLAR.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99-799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99-799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99-799. Again, FREE to 99-799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
right, welcome back to the Dr. Dolly Show. 1-877 Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So could you fall in love with a Republican or a Democrat if they have different political views? Is it that important? Is it a make or break? Where if you're dating somebody and you're doing Tinder or any of these other dating sites, do you pre-screen and say, I don't want to hear from you if you're Democrat or if you're Republican? I mean, does that really matter to you? Well, apparently there's a Fox News poll that says the majority of people, no, it doesn't matter. There's love at first sight. They believe in that. Humor is important, but the political views do not make or break the relationship, which good for them. I mean, good for them. I'll talk a little bit more about this poll, but I've had a lot of friends where one is right, one is left leaning. They get along fine. They do great. How? People always say, oh my God, how do Republicans and Democrats, stay married? How do they do? And, I remember even my parents, because I would ask them, once we learned about voting in school, I'm like, are you guys voting? Who are you voting for? And they told me they aren't going to vote because one of them is Democrat, one of them is Republican, and they'll cancel out their vote. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, they never really talked politics. I mean, and this was what, the 80s? And now, 70s and 80s. I remember them liking Reagan. I don't remember. I was too young to know if they actually went and voted for Reagan. But I know I remember they were talking about Reagan and Mondale, and they weren't that excited about Mondale, but neither was the rest of the country. But so if my parents were really right and left, then they didn't really, but they seem to agree on a lot of things, unless they just didn't want the kids, unless they really felt like they had to keep their cards close to their chest because they thought we would say something at school, and they were so afraid that if somebody knew their who knows. But I mean, that you didn't really have the cancel culture back then, but they just acted like, no, we canceled our vote out. And I've seen that with a lot of my friends and their couples where, one might be more conservative and the other is, more Democrat, and they just don't talk about politics. They don't, the news isn't always on. They don't fight. They don't, so I really think it's doable. Now, there are some individuals where they have made their politics their religion. And I've even seen people who have, where they're Catholic or they're Jewish, and they're like, look, I've always wanted to marry Jewish or Catholic, but if they don't agree with me politically, I'd rather marry outside the faith so they agree with me politically. That's, I wouldn't advise making politics that important because politics changes. As I've said, the Kennedy Democrat is much different from the Clinton Democrat versus the Obama Democrat versus the Biden Democrat, and now the Ocasio-Cortez Democrat. If you're a Democrat, it's evolved. Same thing with Republican. And so to find somebody that thinks exactly like you, people change all the time. I know media and society wants us to be hardlined and fringed and but the average person, you go, I didn't think about that. It's interesting. There was a lot of people that I went to school with that were, at the time, there was pro-choice, pro-life. And they were pro-choice, but they were like, but the fetus is alive. I'm not going to, take part in any abortions. So are you pro-choice or pro-life? Or can you be pro-choice and pro-life, but just not engage in and so I've seen people go, I see both sides. And so that happens. People, can change and evolve. And in fact, what I would say is look for somebody who does have that flexibility. Like let's say there's somebody, I don't want children. I never want children. I don't want children. All right. What about, let's see. Maybe we want children. Maybe we don't. Let's see what you and how we grow and what we want. I'm never leaving Las Vegas. I am never leaving Las Vegas. Las Vegas is where I'm going to, live and die. And, but what if I get a job in another city? Does that mean you're not coming with me? Yeah. So I think flexibility is important. And so interestingly, this poll is showing 6 in 10 voters think it's possible to find love with someone whose political views are opposite their own. 1 in 10 said they're already with somebody who thinks opposite of them. 3 in 10 was like, no, it's a no-go. You got to think how I think. Okay. So those most likely to not put politics first and find love across the political battlefield included, according to Fox News, dads, moderates, men with a college degree, Republicans, white evangelical Christians, independents, Catholics, and voters under the age of 30. So that's kind of interesting, those demographics. They say humor still beats politics in the quest for love by a 55-point margin. Voters say they'd rather share a partner's sense of humor than their political views. That was 77% to 22%. Now, the desire for shared politics has grown 15 percentage points since 2015, and politics have gotten a lot more divided since then. But women, voters younger than 30, and Democrats, so this might be a typo because they said voters under age 30 are more likely to not mind. So that might be, I wonder if that was over 30, because now they're saying voters, women, voters younger than 30, and Democrats are more likely to prioritize their shared political opinions compared to men, voters 45 on up, and Republicans. So the question that has been asked is, do you believe in love at first sight? Many do, 59%, more than 51% back in 2015. They say married men with no kids, Republican men, and Catholics were the biggest romantics, saying they believe at love at first sight. But Democrats do too. It's just in this poll, fewer. And they say almost all married voters, 89% are currently in love, making it one of the largest groups say they are smitten. Overall, 4 in 10 are still looking for that special someone, up from 3 in 10 a decade ago. But love isn't totally dead. Half of those not currently in love still believe in love at first sight. So this is a poll they did. But I'm nervous because we're already seeing, such an epidemic of people not finding, a spouse, being single, not able to have kids. They might want to have kids. They might not. But you're seeing this. And now you're going to add on that extra pressure of, well, they got to feel the same way I do as it pertains to legal versus illegal immigration, or versus tariffs or not. We've allowed politics to get so inflated in importance that you're not going to propagate your seed, and you're not going to love and nurture a child, and because you're going to choose not to be with somebody because you don't know if you could find somebody that thinks the way you do. You will never find anybody that thinks the way you do. My husband doesn't think exactly like me. We may agree with things, politically and religious wise and with common sense type stuff, but he doesn't think the same way I do. I think very differently because I'm a woman. I have different, I have different, phenotypic aspects of me that will prioritize certain things. The nurturing, the kids, the whatever, it's a dog poops. He's like, it's not going to hurt anything. It's going to be easier to pick it up when it's dry. And I'm like, but there's dog poop. We got to pick it up. We got to, so we might not agree on everything. I think the seat needs to be down. The boys in my family are like, it's really easier if the seat's up. I won't miss it as much if it's just ready to go when I walk into the bathroom. So obviously you're going to think differently. So you need to decide, how much do you want politics in your life? A lot of people are loving politics in Fusil. They just love it. They're bonding with people. They're going to protests and riots, and they're really, really liking the camaraderie they're getting with politics. If that's what you want, great. But I don't want you miserable. Now, we're going to be talking about election depression with this next election, where people feel like, wait a second, not everybody thinks the way I do. You can't be upset about that. Of course not. We all don't think the same. Even with religion, people within your same religion may actually look at religion differently. I can't tell you how many Catholics, will tell me, they're like, this is exactly what happened. This is what Jesus said. And I've had others who say, I walked where Jesus walked, and I don't know if I really believed if he was really there. Now, and go, well, I believe it, but it, listen, everybody has their own, sort of weight logic. And so you're never going to find somebody you agree with completely. Now, if you're married to somebody who's accusing you of being anti this or anti women or anti whatever, then that's going to be a problem. If you think they're going to take it so seriously that they're going to marginalize you and cancel you per se. But if you love somebody, you guys find common ground. It's okay. And it's okay to kind of have your own little niche. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I had a patient call the telemedicine company I worked for saying he's got multiple issues and he still has to deal with all these chemical burns he's sustained at work. And I'm like, have you reached out to your employer? This could be, a workers' comp claim, and you need care. And he's like, he hadn't gotten care because he couldn't afford it. And I'm like, but if this happened at work, that you need to get medical care and you need to get this addressed. And, we talk a lot about workers' comp because, many people I think have these myths and they don't understand what they could, how some of these cases, can help you. And so I'm very, very grateful for our next guest, Kevin Kampshire, who is a specialist in workers' comp and criminal defense. He has represented thousands upon thousands of injured workers. He's my go-to, for all things workers' comp because he just knows so much. And he's also an official workers' comp specialist through the state bar. And so we are really, really glad to have our next guest, Kevin Kampshire. Thank you so much for joining us, Kevin.
Thank you, Dr. Dahlia. Thanks for having me. It's so great to be here.
Oh my gosh, you are so awesome, and your clients love you. So yeah, talk to us about what you do and what you recommend to clients.
Sure. So, first of all, I am with a law firm called Scurvy and Roger, which is like more of a boutique law firm, and we have lots of different practice areas. So, yes, I'm primarily a workers' compensation attorney and a specialist, as you had indicated. But the firm does personal injury, criminal defense, family law, business, civil litigation, civil rights, probate. I mean, you name it. And so we take care of people, and now we're adding workers' compensation to it. I've been in work comp since 2015, and you'd indicated like thousands. I think I did the math. It's probably in excess of 10,000 injured workers that I've represented in my tenure. So I've certainly seen it all. Oh, yeah. I was a partner at a couple of different law firms. And kind of what you indicated is that there's kind of a lot of unknowns when you get injured on the job. Mm-hmm. And one of the most common questions that we really receive when people get injured on the job is, well, why hire a work comp attorney? And then, of course, who are you suing? Mm-hmm. And it's, I'm going to, the last part of that question about who are you suing, no one. So work comp, as you know, Dr. Dahlia, that's actually, somewhat how I met you was, through workers' compensation, through medicine, is that, it's a claim. It's an industrial claim. So you're not suing the employer. You're not suing an insurance company. You're filing a claim. Although for all intents and purposes, from the injured workers viewpoint, it looks like a lawsuit. You have lawyers, you have court, you have pleadings and paperwork and things. But yeah, there is no lawsuit. It's simply just a claim. And so then it becomes, well, then if you're not suing anyone, then what would be the need for a work comp attorney? And of course, me doing this for as long as I have been doing it, I could just give you a whole slew of reasons, but people just don't realize. In the example that you began the segment with, that's a perfect example, is that there's just a lot of unknowns. And, what a better way than to get an attorney to come and talk about your rights. So,
yeah, exactly.
hiring a work comp attorney, generally, when we represent people, you don't have to go to court because we can generally handle everything for you, unless you have to testify or something at a specific hearing. But, one of the biggest issues is these insurers or third-party administrators, they are not lawyers. So, they are not there to give you legal advice. They are not there. They're just going to give you the information. They're not going to type up an email and say, well, according to this law, here's what you're entitled to. Like, that's
and
just not
also
going
on
to
that
happen.
too, Kevin, also, people like we doctors aren't lawyers also. And I've been saying for years that I've had friends who were attorneys and nobody believes me. And so here's one of them, guys. Kevin is a friend of mine. I'm friends with him. But the reason why.
Good friend. Yeah, right.
Yeah, very good. But the reason why we doctors work with attorneys is because I can't tell you how many times I had a patient that has an issue and their health insurance says, we're not covering it. This was from an old work injury. And they're like, but wait a second here. I'm having issues. And medical insurance will say, that's not on us. That was on workers' comp. And so, here I am trying to navigate this. And that's why I'll go to a workers' comp attorney saying, my patient needs medical care. How do we do this? And that's how our fields become intertwined.
Right. Right. And of course, it's injury. So, work injuries are, all injuries are bad, but work injuries are to another level because it's happening at work. You have only certain benefits that are, within the four corners that you're entitled to. And work comp is not here to make anybody rich. It is designed to treat, give you the medical care, whatever compensation that you're entitled to, and get you back to work. That's what it's designed to do. It's not going to put you in a better place than prior to being injured. And so, and oftentimes, although, you can take a look at medicals and what have you, at the end of the day, of course, I am not a doctor, and we rely on doctors to give us opinions on whether things are work-related and diagnoses and pre-existing conditions and things. And, and unfortunately, people, the general public, doesn't know if their case is going well, if you will, because there's just so many benefits that people are not aware of that certainly a workers' compensation attorney can guide you through.
So, Kevin, a big question that I get is from patients or from listeners going, okay, so how do I navigate this if my employer is not going to be kind to me, if I'm risking getting fired? What are the first steps that you recommend if somebody injures themselves at work?
Well, first of all, you have your particular laws. You've got 7 days to notify your employer, and you have 90 days to file a claim. So those are black and white, and there's exceptions. Just like all law, you have exceptions, but that would be number one. But that was like the second biggest question that we're asked is about, okay, I get injured on the job. Am I going to get fired? Like, what's going to happen to me at work? And first of all, the reality is that unless the injured worker tells the employer they have an attorney, they probably will not know. But all the more reason, if there's a comfort level that is just not there with your employer, all the more reason to have an attorney. And And certainly it is, filing the claim because of the fact that we have something in Nevada called exclusive remedy. You have to get the care through work comp if you do get injured on the job, because as you discussed, if you get injured on the job and you try to go and use your own private health insurance, they won't pay for it.
Right.
And if you don't file the work comp claim, then you end up getting stuck with a cash payment of the medical care, and certainly you don't want that.
So, Kevin, I know we're running out of time. In the last minute or so, how can our listeners find you, and any last tips and advice?
Absolutely. So, one of the things is that I, indicating that I was a specialist, I do a lot of law enforcement cases where there's accidents and injuries, there's heart and lung issues, there's PTSD, those types of things where first responders have a lot of specific laws. And so we do a lot of work with law enforcement out there, and that could be corrections, 911 dispatchers, officers, what have you. And so, because it's a brave job and they certainly get injured. But you can, in order to get a hold of me at the law firm, you can certainly go to our website, which is scurvandroger.com, and it's SGROANDROGER.com, or certainly call us directly at 702-384-9800. And consultations are free. We do everything on contingency with workers' compensation, so there's no money, and there's no money owed, and unless we get compensation at the end of the case. Yeah,
Kevin, this helped us so much. Can't wait to have you back. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Dahlia.
Anytime. All right, guys, don't go away. We'll be right back. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We're back. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So the next segment is going to be not for kids. So if your kids are listening, you might want to turn down the volume or give them some headphones, because we have to talk about a case or a story that has to do with the Pentagon and has to do with butt plugs. So this has made headlines, and this is one of the biggest stories of the day, where Pete Hegseth and the Pentagon is being accused of stopping butt plugs from being sent to U.S. troops in Bahrain. Now, Pentagon said it's because there's laws in Bahrain and sex toys, and it's not America, where you can be very open about what you use and, to pleasure yourself. But in other countries, but a shop in Toronto is showing a letter that they got from the Pentagon, and owners of this Toronto-based sex shop said that 2 returned items came back from a U.S. naval base in Bahrain. And according to CTV News reports, co-founder Grace Bennett recalled discovering 2 letters from the Pentagon, which effectively told her business to, in her words, stop sending butt plugs to Bahrain. Now, apparently pornographic materials or devices are not allowed in the Kingdom of Bahrain, according to the Pentagon. I don't know much about the different laws, but Bennett's business is a sex toy store called Bonjibon. And it doesn't usually send their products to Bahrain because of local laws and regulations. So she thinks what happened is somebody forwarded the packages to Navy personnel who were stationed there. And she said she didn't even know her products were going there until they came back. And they got a huge kick out of it. They thought it was hilarious. We don't judge. We want everyone to order whatever they want, and we want everyone to feel confident and start shopping for whatever they want. But there is a juxtaposition, she says, of a military person in a foreign country ordering butt plugs and having no understanding that those items are illegal in the country that they're in. So we're not sure who ordered the sex toys, but if there are, I guess, rules where the troops are stationed, and we like we were talking about with Gaza, individuals who are LGBTQ, AI plus, who are being ruled by Hamas, do not have the same freedoms as they do in Israel and America. In Israel, there's Pride Month and there's Pride campaigns, and you could be, you could enjoy who you are and be who you are. In Gaza, you can't. And a lot of, we don't understand, I think as a whole, that we have such freedoms here now. And there's freedoms in UK and Israel and other places that allow you to be LGBTQAI plus, or allow you to enjoy pornography or enjoy sex aids and sex toys, which is a huge industry these days. But sending toys to, whether it's a vibrator or whatever, apparently not allowed. I don't know much about the laws of Bahrain, but those are the laws. So now, is it that the Pentagon is going after people using sex toys? I don't see it as that. I see it as if you have somebody stationed in an area and there's something that could be contraband, we have to, I guess, understand that these individuals are in a country that's not theirs. The base is American. And you have American protections on the base, but there's this symbiotic relationship with whoever is allowing America's base there. Now, I want people to be very, very careful as it pertains to AI. So the second part I want to say about this is Google AI, when you bring up risks of using anal plugs or anal sex toys or butt plugs, they suggest using glass. I'm not joking. That is not something I recommend for anybody. All right. Now, there are medical grade silicone, which is safer. But apparently, the Google AI says use body safe materials like glass. They say ensure a flared base to prevent loss, because you don't want to get it stuck. You want to be able to withdraw it. They suggest to maintain hygiene, stop if painful, and they're not wrong about that part. But I would not use glass. These things break. What have we seen in the medical community? We've seen tears. We've seen fissures. We've seen hemorrhages. We've seen infection. This could happen with vaginal sex toys too. But unfortunately, the tissue in the anus and rectum is not it's not as, shall we say, thickened and as lubricated as a vagina is. And so you have to ensure that you're using proper lubrication and proper, because you can sadly cause micro tears, and with micro tears, you could then get infection. And if you get infection, you get it burrow through, you could get these canals and fistulas, and it could be, does the average person suffer from maladies from it? No. But have we seen some things go bad? Yes. I just wouldn't recommend glass. I'm kind of shocked by that. That was, So, perforations is probably one of the worst things I've seen from something that was inserted that shouldn't have been. And it wasn't a rape. It was consensual. We've also had people, unfortunately, insert things into their penis that got stuck. One child used an apple cord, and I believe put that in and lacerated his urethra. And then there was somebody who was injecting foam. They got it at like Home Depot. It's an insulation, and they injected insulation into their penis to help maintain erections. Now that the average person doesn't go to a medical provider anymore, they don't know how to ask people. They don't have an opportunity to educate themselves. They go online, and I guess some idiot is telling people that you could go ahead and put this stuff in. If you have, let's say, a child, you want to ensure that there's somebody that child respects that can talk to them about sex toys or sex aids so that they don't hurt themselves. I don't think the average person knows that you need to have plenty of lubricant or you need to be careful or watch for these things. I don't think the average person knows that you should never put anything in your urethra, ever. That's bad news. And so they're learning this stuff online. And if you do have a child going, oh, no, not him. He reads the Bible every night. He's not. What I did with my kids is I said, look, even if you're not doing the following, you are going to get the lecture. And this is what I want to talk to you guys about. And so at least you give, and I don't want to hear it. Well, then if they don't want to hear it from you, hopefully a cool uncle or a cool cousin they respect. There's always somebody that they might respect, a family friend, to then be able to kind of talk to them and say, look, just want to tell you, a lot of kids are doing this out there and they're hurting themselves. So I want to make sure you're aware. You don't have to tell me what you're doing, but I just want you to be aware of these are some of the things these kids are doing. So, try not to fall into that same trap. But, you've seen, the Pentagon and trying to manage the delicate diplomacy needed between the people on the base and the country that they're in that has much different rules as it pertains to sexual orientation and sexual toys and pornography, etc. That I don't think this is, as I guess as critical a news piece as the media is. Yeah, but it does make you wonder about how do these troops and people, get to have sexual intimacy and get to be able to satisfy what they need when they're on tours for months or years at a time. So, apparently they're not supposed to be getting stuff from a Toronto sex shop. So, it was a nice gesture by that person, but no. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.